Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Power of the Mind in Healing. That was the title of my PhD thesis. The mind is very powerful, so let's look at it. Placebo means I please from the Latin. In 1785, it was realized that we could give some things to people that would act like a medicine, but actually have nothing in it. So that's a medicine given more to please, to make people happy and believe that there is something in it, than to benefit the patient. So you may have heard about placebo study, where a group of people get a certain medication, why another group doesn't get it, and then the research look at what kind of reactions people have. For example, they do that with antidepressant, and it seems that either the antidepressant or the placebo, they're at the same level. There's not one that gives a better outcome than the other. And what is very interesting, that even if you tell people it's a placebo, but you say it's maximum strength, it's a leading edge, it's effective, people will take the placebo believing that it's going to do something with them, and it can relieve headache, different pain, depression, different thing, even when people knows it's just a sugar pill, just a placebo. How about nocebo? Walter Kennedy in 1961 denoted the counterpart of the use of the placebo. It's a detrimental effect on health produced by psychological or psychosomatic factors, such as negative expectation of treatment or prognosis. Let me give you an example from my life. I had knee surgery twice on both knees, one time when I was 13 years old, one time when I was 21. And after the surgery, of course, they gave me some painkiller, they gave me some shots, and nothing works. It was hell. I was in pain. And at the end, when I left the hospital, I talked to the nurse, and I told her, I guess you were giving me placebos. And she looked at me very puzzled. She said, we would never do that. We know you are in real pain when you get out of surgery. So my mind had thought it was placebo, and they were not going to trick me. So I did not react to actual painkillers and cheated myself of pain relief, unfortunately. Now, this is a man in a hospital, let's call him George. And George was doing so much better, he was going to leave the hospital the next day. And there was a group of students that was around his bed. They were learning, medical students, medical interns, and they were kind of whispering because George was asleep, or so they thought. And then the professor came, and he had just come from the next door, patient, John, who was going to die that night. He was doing very badly. And the professor, as he came around George's bed, said he's not going to make it through the night. Well, George heard that. And although he was supposed to leave the hospital the next day, he died that night. That's why now medical doctors are learning bedside manners, because even in a half-conscious mind or during surgery, a patient's subconscious would pick things up and act on it. I remember somebody who was working in an industry and had kind of a cold or a flu, went to the doctor. The doctor told him, you have advanced cancer, set your affairs in order, in 1 month you'll be dead. He was very obedient. At the end of the month, he died for something where he only had flu symptoms. I remember also being in physical therapy, and somebody was asking, well, when is the therapy going to be over? When am I going to be better? And the therapist answered, well, at the end of the month, you'll be better because your insurance will run out. Why does the pain get away when the insurance runs out? How does the mind work? So now let's talk about that nocebo effect again. There was a study done in Germany decades ago about a professor in a university who was hated by his students. So they decided to trick him. They caught him, they covered his face, and put him on a chopping block. What happened? He heard the axe, but the other student had chopped on another chopping board. They hadn't chopped his head. He was so sure they were going to kill him that he had a heart attack right there on the block. That's the power of the nocebo effect. The mind is a strange thing, so we don't really know what it is. So let's see what kind of definition we have. So most often refers to the seat of human consciousness, the thinking, feeling I. That seems to be an agentic causal force that is somehow related, but is also seemingly separate from the body. For a long time, people thought the mind was a brain, but it's not. It's inside every cell, it's around us, it's connected to other things, to that field of energy. The set of faculties including cognitive aspects such as consciousness, imagination, perception, thinking, intelligence, judgment, language, and memory, as well as non-cognitive aspects such as emotion and instinct. Again, depending who you're going to listen to, they're going to have a different definition because nobody really knows what that mind is, just that it's quite powerful. So does your environment influence you? The Germans like to do the studies on the placebo effect. So again, that was in a university where they had a group of students work on a business problem. They had to come up with a solution. So in the morning, there was a briefcase placed on a table beside them. And the student could not come into an agreement. They were fighting. They couldn't find a solution. So it was a break, lunchtime. They came back in the afternoon and they had changed a briefcase to a backpack. And all of a sudden, the students started to cooperate. Why? Because in their mind, the business briefcase personified business where people fight. And the backpack, it's usually friendly people that go camping and hiking and traveling together. And, you know, I did that for several months. I traveled through Europe and Asia, and you meet other travelers. They have a backpack too, and you become friends instantly. It was amazing that just the change of a bag that was put on a table totally changed their mind. It triggered something different in their mindset. Let's take another example, again, done in a university in Germany, where people were interviewing others. So you would go in an interview room, and there were several. On one side, the interviewer was receiving an iced tea before doing the interview. On the other side, with other people, and they changed the people to be sure it was done properly, was receiving a hot cup of tea. Guess what happened? The people who were being interviewed by the interviewer who had a cold cup, an iced tea, was much harsher than the people who had received the hot tea. They redid this experiment in the street where they would hand an iced tea or hot tea to different people in the street, and then, you know, check them, follow them for a little bit. And then they were asked to judge some people in the streets. And the people who had had an ice cold drink were much harsher in their criticism than the people who had gotten a warm beverage. And a day-to-day life, well, are you ever arguing with people? Maybe you don't even know what. Most arguments are not about the subject you're arguing about. It just triggered you. Something happened to you in your childhood before, and somebody pushed your buttons and you started arguing, or you're upset about something, you may not even know why, because something like a briefcase or a backpack, a hot or a cold drink, triggered you into feeling a certain way, triggered your memory, your subconscious memory. So the mind is like a field of mines, and you never know when they're gonna blow. And now with my Freedom program or different techniques, we don't have to blow up or be triggered. It neutralizes these memories, that energetic pattern that's stuck in our energy system or in our subconscious mind. So that's kind of a choice. Do you want to stay stressed or do you want to relax? It is a choice now. There are many different kind of therapies that will remove those mind from your mind's minefield, or remove the triggers. Once you don't have the trigger, it's not gonna bother you. Let's think about that. If I called you a blankety blank bitch or something like that, you probably would react because it's linked to something. If I call you, you're just a blue heron, woof, what are you gonna say? You have nothing in your subconscious mind that usually triggers blue heron to something bad. And I was amazed, you know, we watched a movie with my children and they said, wow, there was so much bad language. And it hadn't triggered me because I grew up in a different country and these words don't have much meanings to me. However, when I watched a French movie with a lot of bad language, I was very irritated because those triggered something in me. So yeah, you can use a freedom technique and stop the triggers. So if you want to know more about my freedom course, which I just finished, it's edited, you can contact me, coachmenowdrd@gmail.com. We can set up an appointment for a 15-minute free strategy session, and I'll tell you all about this new course to remove your triggers so you have a more relaxing life. Don't get triggered and angry for things that may not be what is happening right now, but it's just a memory from the past. So contact me, coachmenowdrd@gmail.com. Talk to you soon.